Viewers, welcome in Edutainment YouTube channel. I am Tapan Kumar Kundu going to discuss a poem Crossing the Bar written by Alfred Lord Tennyson, a Victorian poet. It was published in 1889 in the volume of poems Demeter and Other Poems. That is the last volumes published by Alfred Lord Tennyson, and this poem is the last poem written by Tennyson. Tennyson requested the publisher to keep this poem at the very last. It was written when he was 80 years old and he was very ill. He was feeling very sad. He was very sad of his physical suffering and mental suffering because he was engrossed with the death of his dearest friend Arthur Henry Hallam. Tennyson became poet laureate after the death of William Wordsworth. The title bar is a metaphor because the bar means the limit of life. What is a bar? A bar is a borderline, a dam of sand between the sea and the land. The poem starts in the situation where the poet is sitting beside the sea on the shore and feeling his grief in mind. In that evening time, the poem was written. It is an elegy. What is elegy? Elegy is a very sad poem written by a poet feeling very grief. It is written on the death of some near and dear ones, some relatives, etc. The narrator uses an extended metaphor to compare death with the crossing the sandbar between water of life, that is the flow of life, and the ocean that lies beyond the boundless depth, that is death, to which we return. The flow of river, flow of water, is the flow of life on land, and crossing the bar means crossing the limit of life and embracing the death. The poem is written in 4 stanzas. Each stanza has 4 lines. Each stanza is a quatrain, and it is written in first person narrative. The poem uses I. The poet is present here. It is his personal grief, personal sadness. I am going through the line now. The first stanza is like this. Sunset and evening star. Sunset indicates the setting, parting of the day, that is ending of the day, and evening star, the star is rising. And one clear call for me. Here clear means clear, sure, unmistakable call for me. Here call to go home. Call to go home, that is return to death, embracing the death. The death knell is ringing, calling, and unmistakable. The death is unmistakable because death must come. The death comes to everyone. In this day or other day, it will come. So here the scene is the ending of a day. Here is indicating the ending of the life. The life is coming to an end. And we know after writing this poem, after 3 years of writing this poem, the poet died because he could perceive the impending death. Next line. And may there be no mourning of bar. Mourning means any sadness. So no mourning. The poet expects no sadness of the bar, no barrier, no boundary, no hindrance, no sandbar, no obstacle in his death. He wants the painless death. That means he wants to die a happy death. And I put out to sea, and when I will go to death, there should not be any pain. Here, put out means sailing to sea, sailing to death. Then there should not be any pain. Next stanza. But such a tide as moving seems as sleep. But the tide, the flow of life seems to me is sleeping. I am feeling that I am going to die. The wave of life in me is like in a sleep. Too full for sound and form. That means he wants the death that will be silent and quick. When that which drew from out the boundless deep turns again home. Here, when that which draw from out the boundless deep, it is the conceit. What is conceit? Conceit is far-fetched imagery. In roundabout way, not in direct way, the poet is comparing something to something. Here, the poet is comparing the life to the water cycle. The wave from the sea is coming, going, coming and backing, coming and going back. It is regular. There is no end. According to poet, the life in death is not an end. Life has the cycle also, coming and going in another shape. The soul is immortal. The end is not the death. after the death there is another beginning. Here it is the comparison. He is comparing the life cycle with the cycle of the water. The speaker hopes the tide will be cooperative when his soul returns to its home, that is to God, in the boundless deep or depth. Here the tide is cooperative. Tide is a helper. Tide is helping, going to help me. The death is going to help me to meet with my God. Next stanza, twilight and evening bell, and after that the dark. Twilight, again the evening scene. Twilight stands for sadness. Here the state of his ill life. This is why twilight, not the bright light. So he is describing the atmosphere here. He is giving the evening atmosphere only to convey his inner feeling, sad, gloomy feeling. For expressing it, he is portraying the gloomy situation, evening scenario. And may there be no sadness of farewell. This line is very ambiguous. Here the rhetoric pun is used. Here the two meanings. Farewell means parting, goodbye. So when in the departure of the poet, there should be no sadness. The sadness may be his own sadness, and it may be the sadness of his relatives. The relatives should not cry on my death. The another meaning is that in my death there should be no pain in me. The poet is hoping that I may die a happy death. Next, and when I embark, when I will depart, when I will die. The positive attitude towards death, the easy acceptance of the death. Death is not seen as final destination by the poet, but rather as a new beginning. Here the line of George Bernard Shaw I can mention. Journey begins where it ends. The ending is the beginning. Ending is not the total ending there. That is another beginning. So we should think of that very positively, and that will give the happiness of living. Poet accepts the reality of death. The next stanza, for thou from out art born of time and place. Death knows no time and place. It may come anywhere, anytime. So the poet is going beyond the bound of time and place. Here the poet accepts the reality of death. Next line, the flood may bear me far, the death may bear me far, take me beyond the earth. I hope to see my pilot face to face. But there, after death, I will see my God. I will meet my God. Here, his belief in Hinduism is found. The Hindus believe after life, recycle of the soul is immortal, another birth after life. Here, this belief is clear from here. When I have crossed harbor, here crossed is ambiguous. It has two meanings. The crossed means cross, and another meaning is Christ. Jesus Christ sacrificed his life on the cross. Here, cross, beyond the cross. That means crossing the cross means crossing the limit of life, crossing the death. And after that crossing, I will meet my pilot. Here the task of Christianity is clear. The poem focuses on the transitoriness of life. Life is limited on this earth. The poem thus ends on a positive note, with the poet both accepting the finality of death and hoping to meet God in the afterlife. So I think it is clear. So thank you for watching.